Hi, how's it going? My name's Gary and I'd like to welcome you to the Comp.Sci Guy IT channel. Today's video is going to be on how to create blueprints in the Unreal Engine 4 so you can interact with one and affect another. More specifically, what we'll be doing is creating a door blueprint that has its own built-in functionality to open and close, and a separate switch blueprint that a player will be able to interact with. They'll be able to provide input in order to activate the door. Now, the good thing about these blueprints is that once they're done, you can drag and drop as many switches and doors into your level as you like, arrange them however you want to, and no more additional visual script needs to be done. All the visual script that we do is done within the blueprints themselves, so you don't have to muck around. We won't even be going into the level blueprint at all for these. Now, another thing I want to mention is normally I'd be doing this video with my headset microphone, but for some reason I've been having troubles with it. The signal isn't actually being picked up. I've tried all kinds of stuff and I've got a feeling it's the actual microphone itself. So I had to bring this thing in, which is a directional microphone. It's a SM58. It's the sort of one that vocalists use, and it's preferred by vocalists because they can have more vocal control pulling away and all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, for something like this, which is more like a podcast, it's not really that good. Like normally you'd want to use something more like a condenser microphone so you don't actually have to speak directly into it. The trouble with this microphone is as soon as I move away, the volume of my voice is going to change. It's going to fluctuate. So I just got to be really conscious of what I'm doing. So I just wanted to make you aware of that and apologize in advance if the volume falters every now and again. But anyway, let's just get on with this video. The first thing that we're going to do is make our door blueprint. Now, we can do this any number of ways. I've got this structure right here that has a doorway cut out into it. So what I'm going to try and do is match my door to fit into this doorway. So the first thing I'll do is going to enter our starter content down to shapes, and I'm going to drag in this cube shape right here and put it right in front. I'll press R, that'll bring up our scale tool, and I'll alter the shape round about to sort of like how I want it. Yeah, that'll do. What I might do is I'll move it into place so I can see it a lot better. See what I'm doing here. And I'll rescale it again. Doesn't have to be exact, but what I want to do is actually make sure there's no gaps going on. That looks about right. What I can do also to get more exacting numbers, I guess, is going to the details panel. Under transform, you'll see it's got these quite lengthy floating point numbers. What I might do is just cut that down to something that's a little bit better. So 2.1, say I'll round it down. And that looks a little bit close. Okay, 2.115. Okay, too much. 2.11. There we go. That's good. 2.25. I might make that 2.3. You don't actually have to do this really. I think it's just easier to work with if you have exact numbers. And X, make that 0.1. Okay, that's sort of like, it's okay. That's not too bad, that's fine. Next, what I'll do is actually change the material on this door, unless we want to look at a completely white door, which is fine. What you can do is go into materials, and all these materials will actually come up, and you can apply these to your door to make it look more like a door or just different. choose whatever you want out of here. I might go with this walnut finish. There we go, got a nice wooden door. So that'll do. We can go into more detail, you know, if you want to, or create your door however you like. You don't have to do it this way, but I find it's an easy way to actually turn it into a blueprint. So if you go down to details, right down the bottom, you'll have replace with composited blueprint. If you click on that, you'll get this open up. Click on blueprints folder, right click on it to create a new folder, and just name this doors and switches. And we'll give it an appropriate name. It's good to sort of like give your variables and blueprints and whatever you're making appropriate names, so it's just easier to reference later on. I'll call it walnut door. Walnut door. I'm a very slow typer, by the way. I apologize for that. Something I'm working on. Yeah, and create blueprint. And it'll open up our blueprint editor. Make that full screen. And if you go into components, we'll see this is our door right here. Just one. We don't actually have to be in here at all. So go back into graph. And I'll change the name of this shape to something appropriate as well. Just call it a door because that's what it is. And to start off with, let's go into our construction script. Now, this is what gets fired off as soon as our actor is created in our level at the beginning of the game, or whenever it actually gets created. If you've got an enemy that spawns in your game, the very first thing that will happen is the construction script will fire off. Now, what we want to do here is get the location of our door wherever we've placed it in our level and stick that location into a variable that we can reference later on. So the way we do this is we drag out a wire, set actor location, just choose it from down here. From new location, drag back and get actor location. Right click on return value and promote to variable. I'll just drag him off over here. And I'll rename this initial location. There we go. Initial location, because this variable is what's going to be storing the initial location of the door wherever we've placed it in our level, and we'll just connect it up to set actor location. So yeah, pretty straightforward. What happens is as soon as the game starts, it'll fire the construction script off. It'll set the actor location by getting the location of wherever we've placed it in our level, and put that location into a variable we've called initial location. Great. Now, what we want to do is right click in our event graph, add event, and click on custom event. What we want to call this is activate door. And events are kind of like functions. If you've done any kind of computer programming in the past, you'll know what a function is. It's something that gets fired it gets called, basically. It's something that you call. And with these custom events, we name them certain things so we are able to call them later on. It'll make sense later on once we actually get into constructing our switch blueprint. But just call it activate door or something like that for now. Then right click, and down the bottom we'll add timeline. And we'll call this door movement. There we go. So this timeline is actually going to calculate the movement of the door, or the location of the door as it's actually going through the motions of opening and closing. So if we double click on that, we'll come into the editor, and what we want to do here is add a vector track, because we're working with vectors, which is to do with X, Y, Z coordinates. And we'll straight away name the track. So what are we going to call it? So like door, we'll call this door location. That's a good name for it. Now what I want to do straight away now is where it has these X, Y, and Z coordinates up here, we've got eyes and locks. So we'll just lock the X and Y, because I'm creating a door that's only going to work on the Z axis. So it's going to just go up and down. So what this will do is when we create a keyframe by holding Shift and clicking anywhere within here, it's only going to create one for our Z axis. It's not going to create one for the X and Y. If we had these unlocked, when we create a keyframe, it's going to create one for all of these. So it just saves us deleting them later. So with that selected, I'll go up to time, click on that, make that 0 tab, and make the value 0 as well. And this is our starting point. What we want to do next is create another keyframe. So Shift left click, and I want to change the time to say 1.5. Tab across to there, and this is like basically start position and end position. So where the door is going to be when it's fully opened. So we want, well, I want the door to take 1.5 seconds to open. That's why I've made the time 1.5. The value that we make depends on the height of our door. So to figure that out, we go back into our viewport. See our door right here. You want to get a reasonable distance away from it. Now you'll see in the details panel under transform, the location on the Z axis is 125. So just make a note of that. Select our door, hit W so we can actually move it. Grab the Z controller and just move it down to the position that you want it to end at. So it's a little bit too far. Round about there. So it's -85. So our starting position was 125. Or it's -84, but let's make it 85 and make it simpler. There we go. So what we want to do is add 85 to 225. So that comes to 210. If we go back into our editor here, and because I want it to actually go down, I'm going to make it a negative value, 210. Now if it is slightly off, you can always adjust it later, but that should be fine. Now you'll notice that our keyframe has disappeared, that because it's gone off the scale of the graph. What we want to do is click here, zoom to fit vertical, and we'll see it again over here. And we can use our mouse wheel to scroll so we can get a view of both of them. Next, what I want to do is select both by holding down Control and left clicking. That will select both keyframes. I'll right click on one of them and I'll select Auto. Now what this will do is create a nice little curve over here. So as the door opens, it's not going to be this straight speed from start to finish. It's going to have this nice sort of like slow to begin with, speed up, and slow down again as it gets towards the end. It just makes it look nicer, basically. Next, I'll create another keyframe, just anywhere will do, and I'll make the door stay open for, say, 4 seconds. So 5.5, and whoops. And I want to keep the value the same as before, so 210. Okay. Oh, hang on a second. 5.5. All right. Now you'll notice that there is this curve here that's going on. Now I want to eliminate that curve by selecting both keyframes, and like before, the way we generated this curve, we're going to be doing the same thing, except I'm going to select linear, and that'll straighten it out for us. And I'll use these wings here to even it up. So that's nice there. Zoom into here, create another keyframe. Make it 7. That's exactly 1.5 seconds after the last keyframe, and make the value 0. So it's back to the start position again. Hold down Control, select the last 2 keyframes, Auto, straighten it out, and we're pretty much done. The only thing you'll notice is this dark grey area over here. Now, by default, a timeline only lasts for 5 seconds, and you'll see the length over here. What we want to do is change that to the length of our last keyframe. Otherwise, the timeline will probably stop at the 5-second mark, which is not what we want. So if you go there, change that to 7, you'll notice the light grey area goes to our last keyframe, which is good. If, say, our timeline only went for, say, 4 seconds, we had the door opening part going only 1 second, we only left it open for 2 seconds, say, and closing for 1 second, that's 4 seconds. We'd have this light grey area at the end, and what's going to happen is when it plays through, it's not going to stop at our last keyframe, it's going to keep on going to the end. The way you can stop that from happening as well, rather than changing the length of the timeline, is to use last keyframe. Make sure that's checked, and it doesn't matter. It'll just get to the last keyframe, whatever that is, and it'll stop playing from there. So if we go back into our event graph, we can connect this up to play from start. Now the reason why we want to do that is because when activate door gets played for the first time, it's called a playhead if you've done video editing. It's kind of like the position as it plays through your film, or in this case our timeline, of what you see on the screen. It's the point in time of what's happening in the timeline at that moment. And for the first time, our playhead is going to be at the start. Once it plays through, it's going to end right at the end, but it's not going to move back to the start position again. You actually will need to put something in place to actually bring it back, or you can just connect it to play from start, and every time this fires, it'll play the timeline from the start every time, no matter where the playhead is in the timeline. Okay, so next what we want to do is, this has worked out, I guess you could say, the mathematics of where the door is in any given point of the timeline, but it's not actually going to move the door. What we want to do is bring in a getter of our initial location, drag out from that, we'll type in add and choose vector plus vector, and from door location in our timeline, we'll just connect that up. I'll just swap these around so it's just neater. What we want to do is add the vector of the initial door location to the dynamic door location within the timeline. And from here we'll bring this out and we'll go set actor location. And we'll connect it up to update. Okay, and now what's going to happen is when activate door is done, it'll do the math, I guess, of where the door is, and actually and send that through to set actor location, which is what will actually create the movement within our level. And we are now officially done with our door blueprint. So we can get out of here, back into our viewport. Now we can get on with making our switch. Now, like I said, there's lots of ways you can go about doing this. You can, however you want to make your switch is fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a character, hero TPP, that's a good one. And I'm just going to be using this as a reference to get an approximate idea of the size of my blueprint. Just come around here and I'll drag in from my starter content, go into props, and bring in one of these pillar frames. There we go. Let's put them there. Scale it down. Around about there, that's good. I'll go into the details panel, make it a nice, nice round number. 0.4, just round it off. There we go, that's good. And I'll bring in one of these meshes as well, which is huge. I'm going to change the scale of that for sure. And I might do it actually directly from the details panel, give it very distinct measurements. So 0.09, tab 0.09, tab 0.09. Enter. Yeah, I've made a couple of these before. I remember the actual measurements I've used. I'll position it. All right, here we go. There. Bring him up. Enter. Oh, sorry. End. The end key will actually make it flush with the actual surface underneath it. So what I'm going to do is position that in place a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. Now I want to improve the look of it, so I'll go into my materials, just choose something like, I don't know, I can choose anything, make it metallic maybe, polished marble. Alright, see how that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That'll do. What I want to do now is control and select my pillar, so I've got both of these guys selected. And then in our details panel, like before, just go down to blueprint and replace with composited blueprint. Find the actual folder. I'll keep it in the same folder as our door blueprint. That way it'll be like nice and easy to find. And I'll rename this one something similar as well. So BP, it's a walnut door. Okay, yeah, it was. Now, you'll notice that this comes up here. What this is basically saying is, hey, you've got a blueprint with the same name. We don't want to name it the same, obviously, but we want it very similar, so that's a good thing that it came up. Switch, there we go. Walnut door switch. And here we are in our editor. So we'll go across the components. And now one thing that we do want to add to this, I might just rename these straight away. Something that looks a little bit nicer than SM pillar frame. Blah, 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 blah. Call it pillar. You don't actually have to do this. It's just nicer, I think, to be looking at names that aren't really ambiguous. So maybe sphere. There we go. Okay. So first thing we want to do is go up to add component, and down towards the bottom we've got shapes. So you can choose anything that you want, a box shape, a capsule, or a sphere. I'm going to go with sphere. Just click on that and rename it trigger volume. Alrighty. Position that a bit better. Move it there. And now I want to rescale it. So I'll make it so we can see both our editor and our viewport as well. So as you can see, I've got our trigger volume here. What I want to do is click on the scale and make it a size that looks like our player can actually touch it in the game. So in the past I've used 3, so I'll make 3, 3, 3, enter, and there we go. So it actually looks like he's outside of the trigger volume at the moment, and it looks like he's, you know, too far away to actually activate the trigger from here. So if we select it and bring it closer so our player is within the trigger volume, it looks like he probably could touch that from there. So I'm kind of happy with those dimensions. So make that full size, rescale these windows down to something better. Alright, now we can go into our graph. With trigger volume selected, what I'll do now is right click, go to add event for trigger volume, collision, and add on component begin overlap. And what I'm going to do is do the same for add component end overlap as well. So I've got both of them in there. And what this will do is whenever our player moves within the trigger volume, something will happen. When they move out of the trigger volume, something else will happen. What we want to do is enable input from the player from here. So drag out from begin overlap, type in enable input, and from end overlap, type in disable input. Now, from our player controller, drag back and choose get player controller, and it's automatically set to player index 0, which is U in the game. Return value and connect that to disable input right there. So from here we want to enable input, but we have to choose which key we want to enable input from. So what I'll do is right click, type E. I like using E for things like switches because it seems to be a universal use key in most games. So I'm going to go with E. You can go with whatever you like, really. Drag out from pressed and type in gate. Choose gate. Now what will actually happen is if we connect our enable input up to our gate, as soon as the player moves within the trigger volume, this will fire. It will enable input, but it will keep on going all the way through until the end. So it's not something that we want. We want to stop the signal from passing through. So that's what the gate is used for. So long as the player is within the trigger volume, this will fire, but until we press E, the signal won't continue. So that's good. That's what we want. Next, what we want to do is, I'll move this out of the way. We want to actually reference our door at this stage. We want this signal to be passed onto our door blueprint. So in order to do that, we're going to have to create a variable of our blueprint door. If you go up to my blueprint, select add variable, and down in the details panel we'll select variable type, and we'll type in the name of our blueprint, so BP walnut door. Make sure you check or select rather the object reference, not the class. So there it is, BP walnut door. And what we also want to do is, you'll notice that the shape within the variable type is a sphere. That means that it will only hold, that variable will only hold one value, say. What we want to do is, see this shape over here that looks like the side of a Rubik's Cube. This will actually turn this variable into an array, which will mean that we can select as many actors as we like and put them into our variable. So that's a very handy thing to do. So let's do that. And just name this selected actors. Okay. Let's grab that, drag that in as a getter. Actually, before we move on, almost forgot, we want to make this editable. So just check editable, and under category, name it something like public, or public, public. There we go. So now, like when we actually go looking for this array, it'll be easy to find in our details panel. So we've dragged it in. Make sure that I is open. It's very important. Otherwise we won't be able to see it later on. And from here, what we want to do is from our on component begin overlap, drag out from other actor and type in cast to character. All right, there we are. There it is. Select cast to character. And what this will do, this is the node that will actually reference our other blueprint. So from here, selected actors, drag out and type in for each loop. Select for each. So if we've got more than one actor in our array, it's actually going to go through each of those and apply to each of them the same functionality that gets activated through here. So we'll connect our gate to cast a character, connect cast a character to our for each loop. Drag them down here. From here, we can drag out and we'll type in the name of the event that we created in our door. So we called it activate door. We did call it activate door, didn't we? Activate door. Activate door, yeah, we did. Oh, okay, yeah. I forgot to compile. Once we finished this, what we should have done is compiled and saved it. That's why I can't see it in the other blueprint, because it's until you compile and save it, it's just going to stay within this blueprint. We won't be able to reference it. But now, when we drag out, type in activate a door, there we have it. We see call to function for each, activate door. And we can connect our loop body up to there. There we go. Because I was worried for a second. Now we're pretty much done. All we have to do is compile and save, and we'll notice how it says error here. That'll go away. There we go. Compile and save. And now we are officially done with our visual scripting. Bring it back down to here. What I'll do is I'll get rid of these, as well as our guy or girl that we've got here. And what I'll do is I'll demonstrate this as if we've created a level, we've got our blueprints, and we're doing this for the very first time. So what I want to do is I'll drag out our walnut door. You'll notice that the shape within the thumbnail is still a cube, and when we drag it out, it is a cube, but as soon as we let go, it'll bounce back into shape. So I'm not sure why that happens, but it's not a real big deal. It's not a problem. Place it in our, what I might do is drag it up and hit end. There we go. That's where I want it. And I'll bring in a switch. Now for some reason, I really don't know why. I've only actually been doing this a few weeks, so half of our switch is underground, but we can bring it up. If we hit end, it'll just go back to where it was in the first place, but we don't need exact measurements for this. We can have it a little bit in the ground, that's fine. That'll still work. Press E. What I want to do is turn this around 180 degrees to there. And for this to work, we're going to have to connect our switch to our door. So where we've got our array that we've named selected actors under public, so that's easy to find because we've put it in this kind of, I guess, reference here. What we want to do is add elements. So click on that. Right now, nothing is in our array, but if we click on pick actor from scene, that little eyedropper, click on that, you'll see this that symbol coming up, basically saying, what it's saying is, if you drag it over stuff, if I go over here and there's other things in my level, I'm trying to select them, but nothing is being able to be selected because of that symbol. That's because that array only holds a certain type of variable, which we've made our walnut door. So as soon as we go over our walnut door, you'll notice it change, and we can select it. And over here, it is named whatever it's called in our scene outliner, which we can change if we want, but that's fine leaving it how it is. So there we go. If we go right click play from here, we're far away from the switch. I'm going to press E, nothing happens. We go close enough to it, there we have an opening and closing door. There we go. And like I said, you can, I'll just come back out again. You can place as many doors and switches into this level. I'll just do that now. What I might do is come over here, drag in another door. What I'll do is place it on the back into this doorway. That's fine. Place it here. There we go. I'll select our switch, go over to public, add another element, get our trusty eyedropper, select that door. Now you'll notice that over here we have two elements connected to that switch. So if we play, see if I can, so we can see both of them. There we go. So you can see this can be useful for things other than doors. If we've got maybe lights, a light system set up in a room where we've got several lights that we want to use one switch to activate the lights, you can use these blueprints in a similar way. Just say I want to have another door and another switch. What I can do is, let's see, let's say I want to have another switch in here. I'll bring the switch, drop it in there. There we go. And I'll bring in another couple doors. So there. Turn that one around 90 degrees. Place it where I want it. Yeah, good enough. Drag another door in here. 90 degrees. Place it there. I can get a little OCD when it comes to stuff like this, but you know, that's okay. It doesn't have to be exact. Now, select my switch, and in the same way, I'll add two of these. Select this door, select that door. So now, if I play from here, get within the trigger volume, open. Only the doors connected to that switch will open. And when we select this switch, only those doors connected to this switch will open. So that is our door and switch tutorial. So I hope you got something out of it. I haven't been able to find anything on the internet that explains how to do this properly. There's plenty of really good tutorials though that are worth looking into. A couple of guys that were invaluable for me to work this out. I'll link you to them in the description of this video. Actually, I'll go over to their page. I've got them open over here. So this guy Devon Sherry, he does a lot of Unreal Engine videos. If we go down on his main page, you can see he's got a whole bunch of them there. He and also this guy over here, Ben Ormstad, I hope I'm pronouncing his name well, or as it's supposed to be. These guys actually had a lot to do with filling in the missing links that I was looking for. And they make quite a few tutorials, both of these guys. So they're both budding developers. Go check out their stuff. You'll learn a lot from what they've done, what they present. Well worth checking out. But with that, I'll bid you guys farewell. Thank you for watching. Thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you very much. Hopefully, if I do make more videos, I've actually got a condenser mic in the mail. It's on its way. So if there was any kind of fluctuations with the volume, again, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure I won't have this problem anymore once I get my new equipment. But until next time, thank you very much. If you know anyone who would benefit from this video, by all means share. If you want to subscribe, like this video, all that YouTubey stuff, go right ahead. Thank you for watching, and until next time, see you later.